wait, you guys moved in a year ago there?
Yep, moved in July. We moved in July, but we started working on the garden on June 27th or 22nd. So, um, the end of June. So it's basically a year. Yeah.
It basically just picking up the plastic mat that was the anti-weed mats that they put down,
Yeah.
pulling up staples, leftover house in the yard. There was a lot of rubble. Other
Yeah.
than
You
because it was
guys
literally
you
it
guys
was just
said there's a
dirt.
lot of debris, like a lot of rocks. It was like a construction site what you were digging up, is that right?
They had renovated the inside of the house in 2016, and it looks like they just threw a lot of the stuff that they took out of the house into the yard and then
Covered it
filled
up.
it. It used to be, from what the neighbors say, a really nice Japanese style garden. But then they just took everything out and filled it with fill. Yeah. So we had to take care of finding staples and bits of all kinds of stuff, really.
Wow. Should we start with your raised garden?
Working on the back terrace area.
Okay.
It's hard. Yeah. And then after that was raised beds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Is that the front garden where the car is parked? No.
No, it's the back where the lavender is and the
So
Okay.
in the
when we first moved in, it was basically just a big mound of dirt. And the way it was laid up, we couldn't get rid of it because there was tree roots. They cut a bunch of trees, but the roots were still there. So we couldn't just level it out. So the only thing we could do was basically create a terrace so that we had multiple layers of vegetation. And then we used the vegetation that we found or brought over to hide the stumps. So like the lavender is one of them. It's like we didn't have the tools to get rid of the stumps, so we tried to hide it.
yeah, rosemary and lavender. We had two healthy lavender and rosemary plants that we had in our old apartment that we brought over and planted near stumps, and now you can't see them at all, basically.
And so, I mean, you have like a quite a big area. You've got can you describe the all the garden areas that you've been cultivating from the front where you park the car all around?
Sure. Well, the front garden has a large tree, a hibiscus mutabilis, and it's kind of it's shaded always. It stays damp pretty much. That is more decorative. There's nothing really to eat in there except for a sancho plant, two sancho plants now that we planted uh, earlier this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's a driveway, and the front garden that we call it is over here, and then driveway, and then back this way, straight back is just one long rectangular plot. And at the end of that, at the end of our yard is where that mound was that Blaze shaped into sort of three-level terrace. And so we've got some trees growing back there, and along the side of the garden is where we've put raised beds, and also in front of our bedroom window as well.
Yeah.
And
So
so, when you chose that house, did you kind of choose it because you could start building up a garden? Was that one of the reasons you chose that space?
the yard, yes, for because I've always liked to barbecue. So it was an area that we could barbecue and hang out, but it wasn't necessarily something we could have a full garden. Maybe we're gonna plant some herbs. We've always liked some basil and we like cilantro, but there was no intention to have a full-fledged vegetable garden. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, we were definitely attracted to having the yard because we had herbs and we wanted to plant those, but we really didn't plan on going as full out as we ended up going. But
And
then we saw potential. So
what spurred you on? Was it all the gardening shows that you guys were watching that was kind of getting you excited, or?
No, I don't. It just kind of happened.
well, we had to working on the back terrace. We wanted to get some more dirt. We went to NAFCO, the DIY center. We saw some more plants. We're like, we could plant that, and just slowly we're like, well, we could plant that.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it, but like, oh, it'd be nice to have that. But then we looked at the yard, and it was just basically concrete, and we're like, what are we supposed to do? I tried digging up the dirt. I was like, this isn't gonna work. And so we're like, well, let's make raised beds. And I've never made a raised bed. You can literally see the evolution of the raised beds. At first it was this, and then like, yeah, that doesn't. We gotta sturdy it up a little more and start adding some. And one took like 4 hours to make. Next one, the last one I made twice the size. It took 15 minutes. So
Wow. So you're
yeah.
just getting better at doing the things you have to do over time, like making the raised beds. It's kind of trial and error learning curve.
Oh, at first it was.
Absolutely. Yes.
Like even with basic carpentry, you don't realize the little things that, oh, the dirt will make it shift, or after, once it gets wet, certain parts of the wood starts to warp, and we already knew that they weren't going to last forever, but the design does make an effect on how long it'll last or even how it will hold.
And even the placement of them, like the first raised bed we made, we didn't realize that its location was going to be in a spot that got the least light through the winter and stays moist all year long, basically, it seems. So, we wouldn't have done that if we realized where the winter sun was here. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's fine. We'll just have to make sure that only certain plants go in there.
Right. Yeah. And I think in the last one, you guys were talking about spending about 10,000 yen a month on buying dirt and materials and stuff. Has that been pretty constant over the year?
I think so, yes.
Well, up to this point, because we've been constantly building new boxes.
Yeah.
So for I'm going to say the last couple months, we haven't spent much on making stuff, but getting stuff we didn't have. So it's not, I wouldn't say that it's 10,000 yen a month to maintain it, but we just didn't have the stuff to start with. So this time next year, I don't believe that would be the case. It's just the initial cost of getting everything up. When you have nothing, we had no dirt. There was no way that this yard would grow anything. So
we didn't have the tools. We stuff like buying compost bins, things like that. Just cost money.
Yeah.
Be an investment.
When you take us outside and show us the outside, you can show us some of your tools. The compost bin. You actually have 2 compost bins now, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's quite an investment, but hopefully you can use it for many years. What's been the biggest success or the biggest challenge so far?
Successes.
All right, so the biggest challenge we have is our dirt, because we can't use what's there, and so we have to use some of the bag stuff, and the bag stuff is usually compost material. So when you use compost material and stuff like raised beds, you have to understand that it's eventually going to go away. It is organic material, so it doesn't stay there like actual earth. And if we mix our earth into it,
we end up with concrete.
Well, it's such crap dirt. You can literally watch weeds come out of it. I mean, it's just a crap dirt. So
it really is.
That's all I gotta say. And that one, that's probably our biggest challenge, is dealing with what we have for soil here. But
I would disagree. I think the biggest challenge is pests.
Right.
Well, that's all gardeners though. That's not ours.
Well, I mean,
there's a really funny story from Heather, who's a professional farmer in Nagano, who I talked to yesterday. Mm-hmm. And she said she was training her kids, of course, to be a part of the farming experience. And she was called over because at the daycare, the teachers were really upset that her daughter kept smashing caterpillars around the yard. And she said, well, that's her job. She's trying to help. I train my kids to do that. So you guys have been doing that, lifting up the leaves and squishing them or getting them off yourself?
Trying. I mean, when we had fewer plants, it was much easier to do. But going back to full work schedule and when I've got vacations, spring vacation or the Corona vacation, or then it's easier to maintain that kind of stuff. But with my regular work schedule, getting home after dark, basically, it's impossible to maintain.
But you
Yeah.
guys have grown like a real variety of vegetables. You've got everything from broccoli to kale and herbs and beets and everything. I mean, really quite a variety. Was
Yeah,
that, yeah?
we've got almost, I think at this point, we're moving on towards it, like 100 different kinds of plants,
100.
basically. Yeah, moving on towards that. With all, if you include the ornamentals and the flowers and things like that. We what was I gonna say?
Is that
I'll come back.
just a idea to try and see whatever works, or you really wanted to just have everything you wanted to have, kind of thing?
Both, both. The kale we don't have. Bugs ate all of the kale.
Oh,
We tried growing kale, didn't happen. Down to stalks. So yeah.
It is like Looney Tunes type situations. I mean, you know, like where they like, put the fish in their mouth and just bones come out. That is literally what's happening with the kale. There's just a single stalk, and like where'd the leaves go? And you can literally see teeth. Like, oh wow.
wow.
So
Because
we tried growing kale, but we have since ordered neem oil, and we've since gotten some organic sprays from the DIY center, and we'll try again. But we did not have those things before, and soapy water was insufficient.
Yeah, so we'll make some of the neem oil ones, and you get an actual sprayer and spray it down weekly to keep the bugs down, because a lot of our leaf type lettuces or any other, they're all destroyed, every one of them.
No,
with the exception of the chard. And that's
the
it.
red leaf lettuce is good.
And it's because no one wants it.
I like it.
I mean, you had beans. You had
the beans are doing really well.
You have big tomatoes. You've got strawberries. You have had a few very good successes.
Yeah, but the kale is just not one of them.
Yeah, the
Just
kale is the one.
kales.
So as for the fruit, most of it is a success. We've already had harvest from squash, tomato,
zucchini.
We had the snow peas, but now we have green beans that are coming up in full force. There is corn coming up now. We have cucumbers, green peppers, eggplants that are all coming up now.
Yeah. Strawberries, we're going to try to grow in a different way off the ground because the slugs love the strawberries.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm always finding what looks like a beautiful strawberry. I'll think, I'll just give it one more day to get red, and then there's a huge hole in it. And I just, they need to be off the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think
basil's been a success.
Oh yeah, the herbs have
all the herbs have been very happy.
I think one of our big successes that was unexpected, that I don't know if you remember seeing it. We had a box full of compost. That we were hot treating it, and then we're like, all right, it's ready to make it into a box. So we mixed a bag, like just one bag of regular compost dirt that we've been using for the whole garden, planted it, and the stuff that was in it at an unexpectedly aggressive rate.
So we had wanted to hot compost, but that actually requires a fair bit of space. So we had a raised bed that we were actually using as a hot compost pile. But then we thought, okay, we don't actually, if we have guests over, want to look at this big hot pile of compost all the time. So we decided to let it sit, rest, and get ready to be used as compost. And then, like Blaise was saying, mixed in a bag of ready-made, like a compost dirt from the store. And that bed is insane. The beans are like Jack and the Beanstalk style. It's funny, we had bought some seedlings that were supposed to be okra. They were labeled as okra. It turns out they're nasturtiums, and they're insanely large.
Oh, so wow.
That bed. So that bed is super healthy. We're definitely going to do that again. Just devote a raised bed to compost, hot composting, and then convert it into a growing bed when it's ready. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I'm showing pictures now of your basil, of your herbs, and I love how you display them for your photos on Instagram. It's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
But you guys are exceptional basil farmers, I would say. Do you want to talk about your tricks about making a big bushy basil plant grow? You gave me some
Basil's
advice.
Blaise is the basil hero. So.
I mean, I do the standard trimming and pruning, but I'm constantly out there. So anytime I see where it splits and it's ready to cut, I cut it even if it's young, even if I'm not ready to harvest it. But within a week, it'll get exponentially bigger. We put 4 plants out there. One apparently is very happy, and it's getting significantly bigger. The other 3 are still healthy. We have enough to. Currently, we have more basil than we can probably use at the moment, so we're
Wow.
happy with that.
Can you dry it and then use it later? Like, is that easy to do,
Actually,
or do you need like one of those dehumidifier type things
We
or
have a
dryers?
dehydrator.
Oh, you
We
do?
also have one of those hanging nets with layers. But honestly, if you are harvesting a lot of herbs, which we have been, the dehydrator is a worthwhile investment because it takes forever to dry completely in the net. Yeah.
So, I mean, with the basil, we haven't actually preserved any of it yet because we haven't had a chance to. But
well, you like to use it fresh, basically.
Yeah, so I don't want to use a dehydrator for the basil. Now, there's a lot of people that have those like freezer tricks where you can wrap it in, ice cube trays and wrap it in paper towel, and you can preserve it a lot longer, so you can keep it in that green, fresh state. But I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, basically we just use it as the basil is something that I think we're both just less interested in preserving, because it seems to be growing fine. Stuff like the sage, we just can't use that much of it, so that I've dried. The rosemary, want to use to make some bath salts and things like that, so that I've dried. Lavender, I'll be drying. But the basil, we just like to use it fresh all the time. So.
And I love your collection basket, the big flat basket.
Yes, I'm embracing my Japanese side obachan with these things I have.
And when you take us outside, I want you to show everybody your little chair, which is like a little rolly thing. That's cute.
Totally embracing the obachan.
Yeah. You have to do what saves your back, what works.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah. Totally worthwhile investment.
And you've also recently had some potatoes. You've had a good potato crop, right?
Yes.
We've only harvested 1.5 plants, and I'm sure we got at least, I'm gonna say at least 1.5 kilos of potatoes out of it.
At least like 10 potatoes.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of close to 10, but it's under 2 kilograms of harvest so far. But we have another 8 plants to go. So, and I'm gonna say 4 or 5 plants are ready to be harvested now.
And that was kind of done on a lark because we both love the movie The Martian.
That's no joke. We had a couple potatoes that had came out with a couple eyes. I was like, I'm gonna plant this.
Are you using human manure like they do in the movie?
We
didn't go that far, but I was like, I wonder if we can really just cut a potato and throw it in the yard. And I did it as a joke, and a couple months later, I was all like, what's that green thing out there?
I think you actually dug some up by accident.
Yeah, I did. The whole, hey, buddy, that worked out. I was all like, oh, there's a plant there. And then it got huge. And so I'm kind of excited. I'm a very big fan of the whole potato plant, and that's gonna be a staple. We'll be planting more potatoes. It's a lot of fun.
Well, when I was talking to Kyle, who runs Kamimomi Permaculture Center, they do compost toilets and human manure. And
Right.
I'm going to go visit their facility and find out more about it. It's very exciting.
Okay.
But
Right. Can't wait to hear
that's
about
straight out of The Martian right there.
that. Yeah, right.
But you've also done like a real variety of beans. You've got
Mm.
snap peas, broad beans. You want to talk about your bean success?
I think we've done 2 varieties of beans.
We
right?
have a total of 3.
Okay.
The first one we've already harvested out, and then
That was the snow peas.
yeah, we planted them really early and didn't because remember we were trying to the Three Sisters thing, so I planted the beans, didn't realize that they were going to explode
So much faster than the corn. Like
Yeah.
they overwhelmed the corn.
Yeah, so they basically stunted everything else, and they outgrew themselves. So I replanted green beans in that box, and then on the other box, the large box that we have next to our cucumbers, I have what Japanese call snap-endo, which is the kind of a broader bean, and it's coming up now too. So that should be ready to harvest within a week or 2.
Yeah, we ate a lot of green beans last week from the second growth in that one bed that had the snow peas in it.
Yeah, the Japanese in the Japanese market they're ingens, like a regular green bean. We had it with tempura, I've stir fried it, steamed
The
it.
tempura green beans were amazing.
They're pretty
They were really good.
All the
Never had
beans are
tempura.
pretty awesome, aren't they? And it's such a nice variety. And a nice thing about growing snap peas or beans is they have a nice flower as they're growing, right? Which I
Yeah.
think is so pretty. I like that.
Yeah.
I've got pictures of your strawberries now. I'm amazed that you got these big strawberries without any critter eating them.
Oh,
Or are these
well, maybe you
store
can't
bought
see
that
the
you
blog.
ate outside?
So because we're using no, because we're using the phone, I can't actually see what photos you
okay,
are
okay.
displaying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you could keep me updated on what you're displaying, that's great.
Yep.
No, everything that if I posted a photo of a strawberry, we grew it.
Okay. So some look a bit smaller and darker color, but some of them
We've
are
got 4
huge.
different varieties of strawberries. Three different varieties of strawberries in the same area.
Oh my goodness.
So there's ones that are kind of fat and round. There's ones that are more normal, like standard shaped, and there's some that are obviously smaller, but they're really sweet.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we started with the standard like strawberry pot, you know, the ones with the little holes on the side. So we put one in each, a different species or
different variety
in each of the openings, and then just let it go. And then they just started shooting out, and they've taken over most of the garden over in that corner. The other day, I must have ripped up anywhere from 15 to 20 new sprouts. They're affecting our like berry bushes. Because blueberries and raspberries have very shallow roots, so they can't be interrupted or they can't be overtaken by anything like that. So I've had to rip out strawberry plants constantly.
And everything
because they crawl and spread, right?
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're very aggressive.
Andrea Kitahara says, "Hi there, Flo. Good to see you. And your garden looks great."
Oh, thank you.
I've got some pictures now of your cucumber coming up. Oh my gosh, you've had really good success with cucumber, haven't you?
Yeah, the cucumber's been doing great. Yeah.
That's just one plant. We have 7 in there.
So
one of them apparently was just an overachiever, and it grew weeks before the other ones. Now we have the rest of them coming up. So within a couple of weeks, there will be more cucumbers than we can handle. So
that's great. I find cucumbers in the store don't have much taste. Have you had a good flavor from yours?
Oh yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
We have 2 varieties in there. One of the ones that has a thicker skin, and the other one that has, I'm pretty sure you can kill somebody with it. They're very, very prickly. I was very surprised at how shocked they were.
Yes.
Other than that, but they're both very good. We've used them in multiple salads. Anytime they come out, we have a couple sitting on our counter that need to be used.
Nice. It's a nice.
That you're eating something. It's just fun to eat what you grow.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think
I have a picture of your potatoes here as well. Big ones.
Okay. Yeah, there's a couple of big ones in there. Yeah.
So that was it was a big surprise because that one was kind of grown in. I had to mix compost in our crap soil.
Oh yeah, the potatoes are basically growing in the crap. Dirt. Sorry, excuse me. They're growing in the fill. It's amazing that they're growing in there. Blaise basically just dumped some of the compost dirt on top of it and let them because it was
Because so as in basically hoping the nutrients would leach into the other ones, but with potatoes they have to be the dirt has to keep being mounded up to a certain point. So that I would instead of digging it up going deeper because the ground was hard, I was using the compost as the soil to mound, and it seemed to be working all right. And it did break up the soil, and the soil does look healthier than it did before we started.
When we started, we had no worms, and now we have worms all over the garden, and so that definitely is a sign that the garden's getting healthier.
Definitely. And using your compost or re-digging in compost again is a great way to get worms and get your soil up to a good level. We've got another comment from Allison. Do you guys have advice about raspberry and blackberry plants? I have never succeeded. Interesting about raspberries' shallow roots. I have mine in a planter to avoid the weeds, but it's not working well either.
We had the same issue. Flo had a blueberry plant that was very lonely, and we know that blueberry plants need, it needs a mate.
We didn't know that at first.
But even still, even the moment we put it in the ground, it flourished even without a mate. It got bigger, like significantly bigger. It doubled in size just from putting it in the ground. So the soil pot
we have not I have been growing in containers for years and years, and I thought everything was fine. But nothing has ever flourished the same as it does in dirt, like in the ground. When I've watched so many videos of people saying container gardening is great, and I only had I had no choice for many years, but nothing grows in containers as far as I can tell. With my abilities, our abilities, as well as in the ground. So our raspberries are in the ground. We've got one raspberry plant and it's producing raspberries. I would put it in the ground, Allison.
So the problem that we have, most people probably have, is the watering effect of it. So when you put plants in the pots, you're talking about the watering effect. It dries out. Yeah, it has to be constantly watered. That's when, if you're gonna have a pot-based garden, which is many people succeed, but most of them use like a drip irrigation where there's constant watering. They don't have to, they have to. Then you have to worry about root rot, and you have to worry about other, making sure that it drains properly and you're getting proper water. And if it's on a hot,
so much harder to maintain.
If it's a hot day, the pot gets hot, and then your soil dries out faster, and then there's too many variables for someone like me.
We are not good at maintaining the container garden, as it turns out.
Well, because we can't watch it most of the day, so we'll come back. We'll come home and we just watered it that morning, but the dirt it's crispy because it's so dried out on a hot day. We basically already killed a tree.
Yeah, we
couldn't keep it watered.
We moved a Japanese maple that was in a broken pot in the front garden, and we moved it into the ground. But then I started getting scared of the roots interfering with the house because it was too close to the house. So we put it in a pot, and I think it's killed it. It was doing fine for about about a month or so, but then it got hot. And it's just really hard to keep that plant watered in the right way. Okay. So what was Allison asking about? Raspberry and what else?
Raspberries and avoiding the weeds. We've got another comment from Richard Howerton. He says, "Wow, Ms. Flo, you guys are horticultural celebrities." Thank you, Richard. And Allison says, "Where do you get all your plant knowledge? It's fascinating."
I have no choice but to scour the internet. And
internet.
Yeah, so
searching. I can find raspberries. How do you grow them?
But the big thing is, everyone's from different portions of the world and different temperatures, and then we're in an area that has a long growing season, but it also has very extreme heat, and it does
Lots of
freeze
rain
here.
and-
So you kind of have to go to multiple sources and pull the information that does fit your area.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like
Luckily,
it's also a lot of trial and error. Not only from what I've heard from you guys, but from Thomas and Heather and all the farmers as well. It's a lot of trial and error.
Yes.
Andrea says, my neighbor gave me a raspberry in a planter, and I've already picked from it. I have it tucked among the ground plants, but haven't planted it out because they just go wild. So
Right.
Andrea says, try to contain it, right?
Yeah, I think that you can, from what I understand, you can actually plant pots in the ground to help them to get the regular water that they need, like they were in the dirt, but it would help contain them. So that if planting the pot, like a terracotta pot in the ground, would work, I think.
it would. I've been given advice regarding our lemon tree for that reason. They're like, you should have left it in a pot and then plant the whole pot in the ground, because apparently the lemon tree roots are they spread horizontally, and they take over and kill other stuff. So they're like, if you can contain it where it'll point it down, they will still grow and it won't interfere with other stuff. Hopefully our lemon tree does not affect everything else, but at the current moment it's pretty healthy.
Right. I mean, where we've got the lemon tree, it's in with the herbs, so it should be fine, I think.
And I'm showing a picture of your beets as well. You guys had a great beets crop. Beautiful.
We were pretty surprised that worked out, because they didn't look like they were doing well, and it was our first time to grow beets. But then, yeah, they turned out okay.
Did you eat the leaves? Because I also ate the leaves recently, and it was pretty tasty. It wasn't bad.
Any of the healthy ones, because we had a lot of. They were apparently they're very tasty because everything ate them.
All right.
So anytime we did get a healthy leaf, I did try to, I put it in salads.
Yes.
And but for the most part, yeah, we didn't.
Other things ate the leaves.
We didn't get a chance.
Well, hopefully someday you'll be able to try them. Kirsten O'Connor says, great, inspiring, making me wish I had a garden. Thanks for your comment, Kirsten.
Thank you. I have to say that I really, I should have sent you a picture of, we had a very, very small garden plot at the apartment we lived in before. And even that was super satisfying. Like in meters, maybe it was a 3-meter plot.
It was basically a foot wide.
It was more than that.
No, it was not. Where you walked, that dirt was only a foot.
Right.
Her measurements are wrong. That thing was only a foot wide.
So, but that's where we grew our lavender. And that's where we grew our rosemary first. My lemon verbena was growing there. And we were, it was made us happy. And
most of it was potted.
Yeah.
Actually.
Oh, that's where our biwa tree began growing.
It was someone spit a seed in our yard and it grew, and we brought it with us.
And now it's getting quite large.
So the apartment garden itself is a fun story, because most of it was pots. Everything was potted. And then the only thing that was in the ground was an aloe plant. And then we attempted to plant some other stuff and we killed it. We killed everything. But here's the cool part. We created something like a vegetable version of a pet cemetery. I mean, we've thrown we threw dead plants in a certain area. And after a while, apparently that soil is very, very healthy. Yeah. And then every time we throw a dead plant on it, a month later, it would come back. And we're like,
we had some, Blaise had given me some miniature roses for Valentine's Day, put them over there. They were very happy. We had an oregano plant that really wasn't doing very well. We put it over there. It became a huge mound. It's now a monster mountain of oregano. A poinsettia that was dying, we put over there. It did great, all kinds of stuff. We didn't kill everything.
We killed a lot of
plants. The plants that we got over from the apartment garden were spearmint, basil, rosemary, 2 kinds of rosemary, and what else? Lemon verbena, and I think
Just
that
give you
Biwa.
guys a heads up of who's asking. Most of the plants she's labeling off right now are borderline weeds, so they're very strong.
Right, yeah, there are
So,
ones that
with the
will
exception
grow
of-
under duress.
Of like
I
basil.
Hey,
Everything
if
else
if
is
it's a weed but you can eat it or it smells nice or it's pretty, I don't mind.
Absolutely.
I'm
Yes.
showing pictures right now of like a purple flower that you arranged in a nice design. Your
Oh, that's
variety oh, is that sage? And variety of, I think, edible flowers, rosemary. You made like a mandala type design. It's gorgeous. It's
Oh,
so
thank you.
artistic.
So yeah, we had all these flowers, and I don't know, I wanted to celebrate them without just taking and all together, because it's hard to show how they'll make you happy all separately in the garden.
Yeah.
I'll be doing more of that, but it's pretty time consuming.
I love it. It's gorgeous. But it really reminded me of, you know, how you see in Tibet, you know, where they do the chalk art on the
Oh, well, that was my intention, was
mandalas.
to
Oh,
make
was it?
mandala.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, it must be time consuming, but what a variety. And that's all from your garden, is it?
Yes, and I'll be able to do more of that with now that we've got more different kinds of things growing. But yeah,
Yeah,
the sage one was fun too, and that all got dehydrated and harvested as well. But
yeah, beautiful purple flowers on that sage, huh?
That sage had to be cut down quite a lot because it was suffocating the strawberries, it was suffocating the chamomile, it was getting in the way of the blueberries. Yeah,
it was everywhere.
It was huge. It got mad.
Okay, we got a few more minutes before we go outside with you, and you can show us what it looks like now. Mary says from Periscope, for first timers at growing veggies, how would you recommend preparing the ground like the year before, or preparing the ground in advance to planting?
All right, so from experience and what I've seen, if you have time, because I've looked into the tilling and the no-till, and each one has its pros and cons, but the effect isn't big. But if you're starting ground, then I would definitely till a little bit, and if you have time to let it sit, the composting, mixing it in will help. We have some of the dirt, we had no choice. We had to till it and then mix in the compost. And we have plants that we didn't expect to thrive, and they're very strong now. We have a tree back there that's doing all right. We have multiple plants that were on the verge of death. And then we still ended up putting it in that crap soil, and we mixed in with compost. But the thing was, I think we had to keep adding dirt to it so that it would constantly rejuvenate the dirt.
I think just personally, I think starting to grow something in it, like clover or other ground cover so not the ground isn't so happy, I don't think, being just totally bare. It's just going to dry out. Having some growth in it to ready the ground for the things that you want to grow in it. And you can make a compost tea, if you can add some healthier dirt to it, then yeah. And I think it depends on whether it's in the ground or readying a container.
I've heard that about snap peas or different kinds of beans or clover, that it's called like green manure quite often,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
that
so
it helps prepare the ground, yeah?
Right.
It's just, yeah,
and break it up with the root systems.
The big thing is the beans make their own nitrogen. So when you pull the roots out, you'll see like little white sacs on them. Those are nitrogen sacs. So that's the reason why that comes into effect. But depending on what you plant next to it, that might be too high a nitrogen, and then you end up getting a really bushy plant with no fruit. So you have to be careful what you put.
Actually, I would say, after our experience here, is if you have a year to prepare your garden, watch where the light is throughout the year. Because that will really impact what you wanted to plant where. Right?
Yeah, good advice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And trial and error.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just keep trying different things, right?
Right.
Absolutely. Mary says, really good to know. So thanks for your comment. Thanks for the answers. Now, before you guys go outside, Flo, you've got a great recipe for some organic, natural mosquito repellent. Can you just run us through how you make some mosquito repellent that's natural?
Sure. Hold on. Let me take you. I made a little. Let's see. Ta-da. How do I make the camera go the other way?
Oh, you got it.
There, I
I
did
see
it.
it.
I did it. I did it for a second, and now okay. All right. Okay. So, I have been making for years a recipe that I call. My name was Buggy Bye Bye, and so I printed this label, and I've been making it for friends for years now. And so that is made with thyme, and my grandmother lives in Hokkaido, so I've been able to get the Hakka mint, but a mint, a strong mint is a good idea. Lavender and lemongrass. Those are my 4 ingredients for my usual spray.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this spray works really well for a campsite or a sit at the picnic table. But if you're going to move around at all, even putting enough of it in a big bottle like this is not enough.
Oh, okay.
Because I sweat it off and I get eaten alive. That recipe, though, just so you know, is from this book, The Complete Book of Essential Oils and Aromatherapy. And that's been my go-to book for years for aromatherapy recipes. I really recommend it. But recently, because the mosquitoes here are absolutely vicious, I've been using, I tried making for the first time a mixture, and this is inspired by your toothpaste recipe.
Oh, good.
Baking soda, coconut oil, the same oils, and neem oil.
Okay.
Yeah, you want the coconut oil because it'll stick to you and it won't sweat off. You do want to, the mistake that I made in making this quickly the other day was I put in too much baking soda. So I ended up with a powdery mess all over myself that doesn't actually wash off because you mixed it with the coconut oil until you take a shower.
Okay.
So you can't go garden and then sit at your table because you're all powdery and sticky. So I would mix in the baking soda slower than I did, and I think that will work out. But I have to mix the neem oil in again, but that's my neem coconut essential oil mix.
I've never heard of neem oil. Where do you
no?
get these? Do you order from the States, or are these available in Japan?
You can order from Amazon Japan.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen it at NAFCO, have we?
They don't sell it in a jar, but they do incorporate it into a lot of the organic sprays that they have in the store.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the things that I was searching for when we had caterpillar issues. And this is one of the things a lot of people use as an organic pest control, and they use a mix. And then we haven't actually made the mix yet, so we're still.
It was raining so much this past couple of weeks. Yeah.
But after this
the garden's
rain,
been a little bit neglected.
This is definitely a good time to use it, because now we're gonna get slugs, and I'm looking out the window and I see the butterflies.
The moths, they're moths.
Whatever. They need to go.
They're so pretty, but they do eat all your plants, right?
Relationship with the pollinators, right? Like I chose almost all of the plants that were the foundation of our garden because they were attractive to pollinators, and those are in danger around the world. But the pollinators have babies that eat all your things that you want to eat yourself, and so it is a complicated relationship we have with them. We have gone ahead and gotten a net to just discourage them from laying their eggs on our plants so that they will go away and then come back and pollinate.
Well, you are giving lots of great bees some good. You don't mind the bees, right?
Oh, the bees are great.
Bees are fine. They don't bother us at all. So, even the murder hornets, we have them. They're fine. Yeah.
I've seen one.
Yeah.
I've seen one of them.
Oh, yeah, they're a bit insane. But they don't bother us, so it's okay.
Those little white butterfly moth things, they bother me.
Well, it's
They
time
have
to
the
go
fun.
out and see your garden. Can we do
Okay.
that? Yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Wonderful.
All right. We're walking outside. All right. Hmm. Okay. Here we go.
I love
I
to
don't.
see that dress in reuse. It's a
Hmm?
dress I've passed on to Flo,
Yes.
and it suits
Yes.
you. I love the colors.
Oh, thank you. So I have to say, strong believer in sharing things with friends, and I have had great success this past couple of weeks in actually taking clothes to my coworkers. Because now that I've been working with them for a few years, I have a really good idea of their size and their style, and I've been able to go through
Nice.
my clothes and give things to people, and they've taken them into
And
wearing
thank
them
you
to work.
so much for the hose. I'm
Oh,
really
you're
enjoying
welcome.
using the hose, so
Yeah.
we can share to each other. I love that.
So I'm going to show you the front garden here.
Okay.
I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. Um, so this is I don't know. You want to ask me questions, or do you want me
No,
to just
no, go ahead. Just give us a tour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a rose geranium that it just goes insane. It's a transplant from a plant that we had, and it's now cascading over this whole area. I don't know if I can get back further. This is the front garden here. Um,
Have you
and
done a lot to change this over the year?
well, um, not enough. It's actually, this is probably my biggest challenge so far, I would say. This area, I need to amend this dirt. Um, I really like this tree. It's the flowers go from white to pink in the afternoon. They'll start blooming later this summer.
Nice.
Um, but it creates shade down here. Um, and so that means you need things that will grow in shade, and it doesn't
Right.
actually dry out very much. So I have to amend the dirt. I've added, there are 2 hibiscus plants that never did very well in pots, but now they're doing fine. And there's a couple of asters right there. Um,
What are things
and
that can grow in shade? I heard herbs can grow in shade, like
yeah,
rosemary.
rosemary loves sun.
So,
Oh, does
but
it? Okay.
Yeah.
a lot of the
Yeah.
herbs, but most of the leafy vegetables, lettuces, spinach, kale, all of them do really well in the shade.
Yeah, we might end up making this a lettuce garden. Yeah, there's some miniature rose plants. There's a Roman chamomile. There's a plant called bee dance. There's some violet that's doubled or tripled in size. This hydrangea was there when we moved in, but last year I don't think
Beautiful.
it flowered. Yeah, and this tree was here before. It's a Japanese sort of sculptured tree, but it needs trimming.
I like it.
Yeah, and then there's some other stuff that's really fun, I think. This plant it's called yukinota in English, in Japanese, and supposedly people would fry it in tempura, but we haven't done this. This is a nice ornamental that's hiding in the back.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a variety. There's a plant called a bearded iris that's back here. And then this little thing is called a little heart leaf, that when it does flower, it flowers under the leaves that you can't see them, but it isn't flowering now. But it had 1 leaf when we moved in, and now it has 5. So I'm happy about that.
Progress.
Yes, progress. So I'm gonna walk you to the back now. So
Okay.
yeah, we just go along here. Yeah. This is where we are. Okay. Our driveway starts there. There's a ditch that I think breeds mosquitoes. And we didn't have anything here besides rocks. These rocks were put here by the previous owners, and they were everywhere. Blaise made this raised bed. It gets full sun, and I like lantanas, and so we just recently planted lantanas there. Also, we didn't have any place else for the clary sage, but because it gets full sun, decided to put the clary sage here as well. And that should grow tall and be a nice backdrop for the lantana. There's a
Potted stuff.
Yeah, so we do have some pots like this finger lime. We need to be able to move into a greenhouse once it gets cold. Really hoping that fruits one day. and an olive tree I was given years ago, and we might get olives. I have no idea. Maybe.
Yeah, it's pretty to look at, even if it doesn't have olives.
Yeah, right.
But
So
olives would
that's,
be nice.
yeah, olives would be nice. So the olive tree is quadrupled in size since
Uh-huh. Even though it's in a pot.
we moved it into a bigger pot. It was in a
Uh-huh.
too small pot before.
Yeah.
And we put it into a spot where it gets more consistent sun. And it's also sitting on top of those rocks, so it gets good drainage.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some lemon balm to the left of the pot. There's some more of the rose geranium because it grows like crazy. And some peppermint, some more lemon balm. And this plant was given to us by a real estate agent when we moved in here. And then I found out when I looked it up that it's supposed to attract flies. So I tried to kill it. And I just left it in a corner. And then it came back twice. So we put it in the
Mary is asking, how often do you water? She's curious.
every day.
Every day, twice a day, just once a day?
Once a day. There are, no, for the most part, everything's once a day. The finger lime, I water once a week.
Yeah, some of the stuff gets watered less because it doesn't like to be overly wet, like the finger lime.
And
the
your
olive tree.
raised boxes, are they just ground underneath for drainage, or do you have like drainage holes?
There's no drainage holes because there's this rock underneath.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just drains out to the ditch in the street, basically. Yeah. This is mallow.
Is watering different, like in the boxes or pots, compared to in the ground garden?
The watering themselves is the same, but the boxes do retain better than the pots.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
But my suggestion to anyone that's watering plants is you have to observe your plants. There are days you will need to water twice, or you have to water twice as much, because it's just, you look at the ground and say, oh wow, it's crispy, you know. But if you overwater too drastically afterwards, it will stunt the plants. So you just have to keep an eye on the plants.
Right.
So also here, this was a plant that we were given at Yamaguchi Flowerland that also died twice, and now it's a survivor. It's staying.
Pretty flower.
Yeah, they're gorgeous, aren't they? There's a purple one and there's a white one. We even forgot there was one in the pot, and it had died, and it came back this spring. That's this one. And
nice.
This is a baby hollyhock, and this is some red clover and some portulaca, and Blaise just put a little bit of a strawberry seedling in there because there's so many strawberries. And here's some raspberries. Oh, and there's a weird bug on one of them. Okay.
Oh, the raspberries look healthy.
Yeah, the raspberries seem fine. Yeah. And there's a big section of it growing up there. That's new, kind of, after the last few days of rain.
Now, if you get like a mysterious plant growing, what's your method to find out what it is? Do you use like an app or?
Yeah, I use an app.
And
there's also a good Facebook group called Plant Identification. That they're pretty friendly.
Okay.
You have to just say where you're at and where you're at and include a picture, and they will pretty much usually come up with a good answer for you.
Great.
And you can Google what they come up with and confirm whether or not you think it's the same thing.
Wonderful. And you've built all these beds on the side of the garden.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So there's some more nasturtiums in there because they're good companion plants, and the tomatoes seem to be doing great. And Blaise has been looking up a lot on how to effectively get the best yield from the tomatoes. And so basically it comes down to not growing leaves and trying to grow tomatoes, right?
So the big thing is you have to understand what kind of tomatoes you have. Tomatoes basically split into two types of plants. Is what they call Determinate and Indeterminate. So tomatoes that will continue growing up are considered indeterminate tomatoes, and those basically you want to keep it to the main stalk only. So anything that's the side you got to cut off. So
if you don't see any flowers, you should take it off. You mean the stalks?
No.
Well, the flowers are going to come off the main stem anyway, so the branches themselves are not essential for fruiting. But the plant it's still a plant, so it will need energy, and that's where the leaves come into play. So you
I
have to
see.
keep you have to at least leave minimum leaves so that it will
Get
yes
It'll grow, yeah.
produce energy for
And
the plant.
what is climbing there? Is that
that's
pumpkin?
our cucumber.
Oh, cucumber.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
nice.
have
Beautiful.
3 climbers. So
Mm-hmm.
the one is the cucumber, and if you look down, you'll see the beans. These are the flatter beans.
Uh-huh.
And then next to it is actually watermelon.
Oh yeah, there's a baby watermelon down there. You see it?
Yeah. Cute.
Yeah, and there's a bigger watermelon that's growing over here. It's come out of the pot.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
So the watermelon is, it's a sprawler. So there's a bit of watermelon there. There's a bit of watermelon there.
They're
Leaves.
everywhere.
So we were hoping, we were actually going to be happy if we just ever got one watermelon, but it looks like we're going to have a few.
Yeah. You're going to have a watermelon
there's
patch.
Can you see where's our baby? Where is it?
You've got an eggplant.
Eggplant.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
You've
Happy
got a
about
few
that.
eggplants in there.
Yeah.
And show your little eggplant sign. I love your little markers.
Oh, thank you. Where's the eggplant sign? There it is.
There it is. Eggplant.
Yeah. So I don't know. I try not to throw things away.
Yeah.
And
is that a wine cork?
Yeah, and I like white wine. I saved my wine corks for years and I looked at all these things on Pinterest, what to do with them, and decided to come up with this. So yeah,
nice.
Happy about that.
Allison is asking any apps or groups for identifying bugs or disease. Would you recommend the same group for bugs or disease information?
No, they're kind of cranky about that. They're like, no, we're not the bug group.
Okay.
But you can look online and you can find where there's bug groups as well.
Okay.
Gozaimasu. And so I just want to say I did make this sign for the garden. Shout out Black Lives Matter. And if you haven't seen Kimberly Crenshaw's video from the TED Talk of intersectionality, intersectionality, it's not an easy watch, but I highly, highly recommend it. Okay. I feel like we're all lucky to have our lives like we do if we're not in fear of police brutality. And I think that it's up to everyone to say something. Definitely.
I'll put the link at the bottom of the video when it's stored.
Have you watched that?
I haven't yet. No, I'll check it out. Yeah.
I'll send you the link.
Okay, wonderful.
So Blaise is kind of doing some harvesting on the.
Is this pruning. Basil? Yeah, show us how you prune it.
All right, so right here, can you see it? All right, so right here where you see it, the split. This is right here. This whole branch right here needs to come off.
Okay, and
so
then
from here,
that makes it bushier.
Yes. So if you look through, you can see it where it starts to have a little probe right here.
Yep.
It's wanting to flower.
See this right here? This is gonna sprout. But these two. So once you do it, you want to go to the next. Once you see these, you go to the next split, and then right above that, you can take it off.
Yep.
And then from here, it'll split again and get more bushy.
Okay.
Same with this one. So anytime I see these, I just take them off. All this can just come right off.
And back when when I wasn't able to personally grow basil like this, when we first started growing the basil, I would go around and follow Blaise when he picked up all these little leaves and think, oh my God, those are perfectly usable. But yeah. He's in charge of the basil. So.
It's obviously working. It's amazing. Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a few more minutes. Yeah.
And so here's oregano. This is a stevia plant. There's some peppers growing here. There's a chicory. There's dill that I'm pretty happy about. That's new. Tarragon did not take. The sign is there, but didn't take. The parsley we're letting flower. This is oregano. It's crazy.
Wow. Lots of oregano.
Yes. And here's a lemon tree. That's I need to trim the oregano because I don't want it touching the lemon tree. Some cherry tomatoes. This plant we actually bought after the talk with Thomas because he was talking about the black cherry tomatoes. And we're like, we want some of those. So yeah, I decided to grow those. This is anise hyssop. We've got some corn coming in.
Wow.
Really happy about that.
The corn looks
Uh,
healthy.
Yeah, the corn looks super healthy. Yeah, so a large view of the garden in the back. This is what we refer to as the back terrace over there. This is the nasturtium that is not okra. Um, and there's a random tomato plant that we didn't plant there, and some beans.
Maybe
Yeah,
from compost that came up?
maybe. And so these are green beans that were, the green beans are really healthy.
Yeah, nice.
Those.
And
More corn.
to give people some perspective, there was nothing green out here when you first started, right?
Oh no, it was covered in black tarp, and not a single weed even was growing when we first moved in. And then we started working on it.
Look at the salads. Wow.
Yeah, so the chard is really happy. Really like that. And yeah, so there's zucchini growing there, and leaf lettuce, elderberry. This lemon verbena needs to get trimmed because it's interfering with other things. I had not harvested the lavender last week because I wanted to show you growing it so beautifully, but then it rained so much, and now it really has to be harvested today.
Yeah.
There's
got a lot of it. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. There's kinmokse in the back. There's a crepe myrtle tree that also the lavender is too friendly with. A couple of rosemary plants, some of the tomatoes, the biwa tree that came from a discarded seed.
Uh-huh.
There's-
Biwa is a type of citrus, right?
is it citrus?
It's got a big
Called loquat.
seed. The
It's
loquat.
loquat in
Uh-huh.
English, yeah. So
Big seed in the middle, but it's
lots of seeds.
got a nice flavor.
It does.
If you don't mind the seed. Mm-hmm.
They're expensive to buy, so we're happy about that.
Yeah,
And
good.
also, I've been making biwa extract from the leaves for years, and I was always having to ask friends for them. So I'm happy that I can have my own source of biwa leaves now.
Yeah.
And
Eddie is asking if your plants are real or if it's plastic because it looks like plastic. It's too perfect.
Funny. Yeah, the bugs don't like plastic plants, so I'm pretty sure they're real.
Yeah. Allison says, what an inspiration for your neighborhood. All the beautiful green.
Oh, yeah. Neighbors seem pretty happy, actually. They stop by and say that they were doing a good job.
Nice.
So that makes us happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some peanuts in the back behind the biwa back there.
Is your peanuts growing? Wow.
Yeah.
We have 2 plants.
Yeah, we have 2 plants, and they seem to be growing taller, and they're quite healthy and green. This was something I wanted to talk about real quick, is the tomatoes,
wow.
potatoes.
Somebody's eating that.
They look like you could eat them, but I was exaggerating the other day. They won't actually kill you, but they will make you very, very ill.
Uh-huh.
These come when there's been too much cold in the growing season.
Okay.
And you should not eat them. And if you have children, you should cut them off.
What is it called?
It's a potato, like a fruit, basically.
Oh, wow.
But even if you planted these, you wouldn't get the same kind of potatoes as you would from your original plant. So basically, they're just trash.
Yeah. But obviously the insects are drawn to them, so maybe use that as food.
Maybe. And so this state of the potatoes is that when you know that they're ready to harvest.
Okay.
When they start to look desiccated like this.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. Blaise seems to be digging for a potato now.
Oh,
we found one.
Yay.
Yay.
Action shot. So you just dig in the ground like that, and it's not connected to a root system? It's just loose?
Oh no, they're just very. So they're. Yeah. I don't know if you can see the potato.
I see a little roly-poly in the dirt there. It froze. Oh no, frozen. Okay, moving again.
Okay, so you can see.
Yeah.
There's like they're very off.
Okay.
Yeah, so you don't have to pull the whole plant up, but technically you can just pull the potatoes you want for that day if you want new potatoes.
Uh-huh.
If you want to So potatoes are one of those few vegetables that the standard potato everyone eats is not a fresh potato, or what they call new potatoes. They're hardened.
Yeah.
So you can dry them out like onions and potatoes. You can let them sit there.
And then we have a couple minutes at the end. You want to introduce your grass?
Oh goodness, yes. So the grass we were watering twice a day when I was home teleworking. It's a mix of grass from a bag from NAFCO, the DIY center near us, and clover. I've been reading about clover lawns for a long time, that you don't have to water them. They attract pollinators. They're soft on the feet. But I didn't really realize how much they're not. Clover isn't meant for heavily tread upon areas. So this little path here is where we always walk for all the watering and everything else, the harvesting. That little bit in the front needs to get grass planted in it.
Okay.
And we also have a lot of weed grasses that are growing that will take over everything. But the reason that we don't want them is that in the winter they'll die. We don't want grasses that are going to look bad in the winter.
Right.
So, for example, this one has a pretty flower on it, but it will take over and then die in the winter and just be kind of a pain.
Yeah. The clover
said,
lasts a long time, doesn't it?
Yeah, clover should be fine. You might have to reseed it every few years, but basically it's fine.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I love clover, and it's good for the pollinators too, right?
Right. Good for the pollinators. It actually is healthy for the soil. So yeah, I'm all about the clover, except that this little patch of dirt here needs some grass.
Yeah. Well, can you give us a spanning view of your garden as we sign off today?
Can I show you my tools real quick?
Yes, please.
Tools. Yeah. All right. So that's a citronella candle that's burning because we have mosquitoes. And there's that lovely harvesting basket.
Yeah, lovely.
And, we use this planting stick to make holes in the dirt. It is a very simple tool, but very handy. This is a tool that I think is essential. It is to pick off caterpillars.
Oh, wow.
Or to pick up slugs. Just basic old kitchen tongs, but I don't want to touch them. And I have two of these. I'm always picking them up and leaving them somewhere in the garden and forgetting about it. But this is to dig out weeds.
Okay.
And stuff like the dokudami is invasive, needs to be dug out. And I love these things. Simple. I don't have the effects that these pruning shears do. So these are really handy. Digging your dirt out of your bags. I like these. Just yeah.
And then can you show your composter as well? Yeah.
A tin.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Your half used seed packet. So this like its leaves, I don't know if you can see, like its leaves are almost as big as my hand. Really just insane growth.
Okay.
And so that has a layer of old compost on it. Then Blaise dug a pit to cold compost over here. When we convert a raised bed into a new hot compost bed, he'll dig this.
And then you have 2 buckets for your kitchen waste that you're converting into liquid compost and compost too, right? Sorry, the connection's a little unsteady, little frozen. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, it looks like we've frozen a bit. Can you hear me? It's frozen. Maybe if you move closer to the house where the Wi-Fi is.
Compost.
Okay, it sounds like it's getting better. No. Can I hear you?
Oh, I can hear you fine.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe when you move a
Okay.
bit
Yeah.
further away from the house, I
Oh.
can't see anything. Everything freezes.
Uh,
I think the image might be frozen. Hello? Yeah, I can't hear or see anything at the moment. So I think we'll sign off there. What a wonderful tour of the garden. Thank you for all of your insights into your wonderful gardening, all the amazing plants you're growing. So many beautiful, beautiful vegetables and flowers. If you're interested in keeping up with what...
Hi.
Oh, okay. I can
Thank
hear
you.
you now. Yeah. Thank you so much
Oh,
for...
okay.
There you
All
are.
right.
There you are. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
thank
the
you. Thank
tour.
you so
That's
much, Joy.
wonderful.
Oh, you're welcome. Did you get a spanning view of the garden? I can do that maybe from here.
Oh yeah,
Router's upstairs.
can you do a little
Yeah.
span? Yeah.
I'm gonna stand where I am, and
Okay.
so the dining room is to my left.
Yep.
This is our massive rose geranium. The back terraces, first raised bed, second raised bed, third raised bed, fourth raised bed. The herb garden extends to the front, and the fourth raised bed in front of the bedroom, and that's actually the sixth raised bed, the corner one. And the fifth one is alongside the driveway that we saw earlier.
Wow.
That is
Amazing.
the garden.
Yeah, you guys have done such a beautiful, amazing job. I think all your hard work has really paid off. I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting us share. I mean, yeah, we're just happy that we have this as a very, very nice hobby, really.
Yeah, and hopefully the bugs aren't too bad and you can enjoy hanging out there sometimes as well in the morning or evening.
Because we knew we were doing this today, we actually put Katori Senko in the back and the front, one in the middle, and the citronella candle, and sprayed. And I haven't gotten bit in the last 15 minutes, so this looks good right now.
Yeah. Last comment from Mary. She says, bye till next time. Thank you for showing all the beauty. Thank you, Mary, for joining. And thank you everybody for your comments and questions. That was fantastic. Flo and Blaise, keep up the good work. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, thank you.
And if you want to keep up, find Flo Gently on Instagram, and you can see all of her gardening photos and her tips and tricks and the gorgeous displays that you do with all the flowers and herbs.
Thank you so much, Joy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep doing your good work. You're awesome.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Have a nice Sunday.
You too. You too.
See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.